All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the WarDawg Trail podcast. I'm your host, Sergeant WarDawg, and today on episode 129, I am bringing you a military radio superstar in the game for nearly 10 years. All right. He's not only an Iraq veteran, he's also an Afghanistan veteran, and he served with the army. All right. But before I bring him out, all right, before I bring him out for today's show. So, I'm sorry if I didn't mention. Yeah, we're basically buddies and co-hosts, man. Every Saturday night we go live on DV Radio. That's Dysfunctional Veterans Radio at dvradio.net, where you can tune in to us every Saturday night live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to speak as openly as you did in the barracks, man. Just have hosts from each branch and just have a good time and talk things out. Now, like I said, yeah, we're both hosts from DV Radio. All right. And tune into that. All right. dvradio.net. Last but not least, you can purchase my book, The WarDawg Trail, A Marine Rifleman's Struggle with War and PTSD, on Apple Books, Audible, and Amazon. And my book recently won an award, man. By bookauthority.org. It won Best Iraq War Books of All Time. I mean, there's a collection of books that, fit that group. But, yeah, somehow you made that as well, man. So, salute. As always, welcome back to the WarDawg Trail. I'm your host, Sergeant WarDawg, as a part of Sergeant WarDawg TV. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I bring to the stage the one, the only Army, Iraq, and Afghanistan veteran, Bender. Welcome to the show, boss.
Oh, thanks for having me, brother. This is great. I appreciate being on here. And everyone listening, if you haven't caught me over there on Barracks Talk Show on Saturdays, like WarDawg said, check us out. We have our own special kind of fun there. It's a good thing. That's kind of how I got into this. And I appreciate you bringing me on and let me get a little more experience outside the realm of Barracks Talk, because I am planning on kind of expanding my own brand as Bender, reaching out, doing a few things I want to do.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about, bro. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Let's see. We are gonna talk wide open because you and I on DV Radio already talk wide open, but we're gonna go even deeper and further, bro. I want you to let out and speak as raw on this show as everyone else does, to really express what you've been through, seen, how you feel, that sort of thing. Just, hey, a lot of other veterans around the world, bro, can resonate with you. So, yeah, let's tell your story, bro. So, where are you from?
So, originally born in Dallas, Texas, but my parents moved me up to Colorado and the greater Denver area when I was still a kid, probably around like that first grade age. However, I was a late accident. So my mom was born in 1942. So being in a place like Colorado, they have a whole different mentality than like that, a Texas woman growing up in the 50s. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
and
that conservative, old school.
yeah, and I mean, back then Colorado was still a little bit more conservative, so it wasn't too bad, but the writing was on the wall. So I guess the only reason I really bring all that up is just because even way back then, I think just having that whole different, there's no mentality like the Texas mentality. And WarDawg, I know you spent some time down here, so you know what I'm
Right
talking
on,
about.
right
And
on.
so even though
You know, I spent 1 year.
Yeah,
I spent a little over a year out in Arlington, Mansfield, Irving. So salute,
hell yeah,
man.
yeah. Yeah, I still like the area where a lot of my family still is. But but yeah, no. So it was just still growing up different. Never like I never felt like I was like with my people while I was up there growing up. Um, I'm not gonna go. I think I'm gonna skip past a lot of the younger years of my childhood. There's not. I don't see.
Yeah,
I don't feel like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
no real need for that.
Let's go to high
Yeah.
school.
Um,
Let's go to the high school and going on to the army. Why the army, bro? Of all the branches, give me your, explanation of why the army.
so when I started speaking to recruiters, um, and was talking to the Marine Corps approached me, Army, I think even it was either Air Force or the Navy, one of those two. But yeah, I had three of the major branches recruiters coming after me, and so I called my oldest brother because I am in late accident. My brother's 20 years older than me, and but my oldest brother, he served in the Marine Corps. Um, he did the JEST training. He spent a couple years stationed in Hawaii, a couple years stationed in the Philippines. Did some time over in Lebanon. Back in was that '83 when the
Beirut.
yeah
Beirut.
he spent some
Yeah.
time over there playing around
Lebanon.
with us. Um, and so I basically once I started talking, like I said, started talking to these recruiters, and they're all giving me these offers, giving me their spiels, all that. Well, my oldest brother was somebody I always looked up to, so I gave him a call and was just like, "Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I'm thinking, and these are the guys that are, talking me up." And his advice was join any branch I wanted to, but if I picked the Marine Corps, he'd break my legs.
That's what's up. That's
You
what's
know,
up.
yeah, he's proud of his time with the Marines, but I think, especially back then in the late '70s, early '80s, and some of the shit he ended up having to do, I think just kind of left a bad taste in his mouth. So he didn't want that for me.
Right,
So
right
that's why he
on.
was trying to guide me in a little bit different direction. Um,
Right.
so uh, what I ended up settling on was, all right, please excuse the cough. I was at a music festival last weekend. So there was some dust, and I spent the weekend chain smoking some really cheap cigarettes.
Hold on, tell them about that. What you were doing last weekend?
Oh, okay, yeah. So, new tradition I started with my boys. Get a little bit more into this later on. But my boys still live up in Denver. I currently live down in San Antonio. So, needless to say, I don't really get to hang out with them very often. But every year on Labor Day weekend, there's a music festival in Oklahoma called Rocklahoma. And we've always been kind of going to concerts and into the rock music stuff since my boys were little. And so now that they're young adults, we last year we started the tradition where we just meet each other there in Oklahoma, and you get it's like 3 day festival, dozens of bands. You get to camp out, and the shows usually wrap up between 11 and midnight. And after those shows, I mean, there's hundreds of acres of campsites out there. I think there was 70,000 people at this festival this year, and yeah, those camps. It's just a wild party after the shows, pretty much
So
all night long.
everyone either like camped in their own tents or in their RVs and whatnot, and that was for 3 days.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Or people will set up like a group we met and kind of hang out with. They set up like 15 easy ups, had them all like clamped together, and they built kind of almost like this little lounge bar area, and like shot roulette and some beer pong, and they had the giant Jenga and shit. It was
Yeah.
nice, cool little places to hang out and stuff like that. But yeah, there's other camps that have like bondage contests and all kinds of whatever kind of weird shit
Okay.
you're into. there's a camp out there for it. There's a dude runs around with like this bong that's like 7 feet tall, and people will take, like, it's legendary amongst the crowd out there. And he just runs around, and anybody who thinks they can take a hit off that bong, he'll let you try. I didn't for my work reasons, but it was kind of tempting. But yeah, so kind of whatever you're into, there's a party, there's a camp, there's something going on out there for you. But my primary focus is being able to hang out, spend time with my boys, since, like I said, I don't get to do that very often these days. And but we had a blast. It just, not only we get to have that guy time, it's one of those things I feel like being the father of sons, I think, is a little bit better than daughters. I don't have any girls, so I can't really speak to this. I know you've got daughters, WarDawg,
Yeah.
but I feel like with sons, as they start becoming young men of their own, like, you're still kind of their mentor, but you also kind of get to be kind of their buddy at the same time.
Mm. Yeah.
We get
Good
to spend,
call. Good call.
you get to spend, and so that's something I feel like most men look forward to. Like, yeah, it's nice when your kids are little, before they've kind of been corrupted by the world a little bit and everything like that. But with boys, like, the older they get, the more shit you get to go do with them. And so as a father with sons, I feel like, that father-son bonding time is more, it's closer. It's like hanging out with your boys and not just as your sons, but you know what I mean? It deepens those bonds in other ways that I feel like might still be a little bit different between daddy-daughter or mother-son.
Gotcha.
But
Got.
but yeah, that's kind of the short of it. I've got a few pictures up. I'll get a few more posted before we're gonna do barracks talk here in a little while, and I'm sure to talk about it more detail on there as well.
Right on.
But I got some pictures from the whole weekend. I was running around with this T-shirt on that said, "I rented these hookers,"
I saw
and
I
had an
saw the
arrow pointing
picture.
off to the
Yeah,
side.
he had an arrow pointed to
Uh,
two women that were hanging on each shoulder. And the shirt said, "I rented these hookers," with two chicks on both sides. Crazy.
Man, I thought it was going to be a funny joke. I thought I was going to have to sneak around and photobomb people, but there were some people who kind of gave me dirty looks, that little side eye thing, but for the most part, those people coming up to me like, "Can we take a picture with you?" And I'm, "Hell yeah, yeah, let's do this." Best, she read my shirt as I was just walking by, and she made her husband and son get on each side. She's like zooming in the camera. I
Holy
look at
shit.
Yeah, look at those dudes. I was like, damn, she just played all three of us, didn't she?
Oh
But
damn.
it was great. Yeah,
All
it was
right.
it was a good time. But all right, I guess
All
back to the
right.
matter at hand here.
So yeah, back to your story. You mentioned that your brother told you if you would have joined the Marines, he would have broke your legs.
Yeah.
So tell us what went on after that.
Well, so after talking around with recruiters and stuff like that, I was still a little undecided, um, and I ended up getting swooped up by one of the Army National Guard recruiters, and I thought, you know what? I can try that for a couple of years. And if I'm really into a year or two, if I'm really into it, I'll just up and I can transition over to active duty. It's not too hard. It's just a matter of filling some paperwork out.
Right.
Um, so went ahead and enlisted to the National Guard. Did my basic training, did the schooling. I chose an aviation MOS as a helicopter structures mechanic,
All right.
and so basically bending, shaping, riveting, all kinds of stuff with metal. Um, so that's kind of where the name Bender comes from. Started off as a joke because I was a bending unit for the Army to keep their helicopters flying. Uh,
Right. Right.
but I chose that one too because I also felt like that could help give me some good skills to develop a career post-military.
Afterwards. Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the advice. I mean, I know we need the infantrymen by all means, I'm not talking down on them at all. We need instrument, we need the tankers. Um, but I feel like that's why there's so many programs with the military and the VA as far as reschooling and retraining post service, is because, I mean, where else can you go drive a tank after your military service, right? There's not really a
Yeah.
high demand for it. I mean, maybe a snowplow operator, maybe kind of close.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's about as
so
close as you're gonna get, baby.
you're right. But so that's why I went with aviation. I felt like that might be something to give me a good foundation I could build from later on. Um, and once I was in the guard and playing the game for a little while, that's when I learned about the full time National Guard guys. I'm like, well, shit. As a mechanic, I can make more money and still not basically have to worry about like the whole PCSing thing all the time. Because
Yep. Yep.
at this point, I had a young family started, so I was like, well, hell, this sounds great. So I put in a lot of my effort. Everyone just talks about that 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. That's what's kind of advertised. But
Hmm.
the fact is, especially in a place like Colorado, because that's where this was at, with the mountains up there, you either got in the summertime, you got hikers getting lost. So there's search and rescues going on for them all the time that we would assist with. Uh, Also, late summer, the mountains seem to be always on fire in Colorado. So then we're assisting with firefighting operations. Wintertime probably slows down a little bit, but there were times like in heavy snowstorms, our helicopters were getting out, dropping bales of hay to feed cattle and shit because the ranchers couldn't, their herds were out in the middle of nowhere and the ranchers couldn't get to them because of the snow.
Yeah.
So we're out there taking care of livestock to make sure they don't
That's
starve.
cool, man. I didn't know you
So
guys did that. I know you jump in for state emergencies, national emergency, but I didn't know you even helped that way, man.
yeah. So we were always busy, so that we really had that need for a full time staff of maintaining these aircraft because we were conducting these kinds of missions all throughout the year. So
Right,
because we
right,
had that such a high op tempo even at home, it was easy for me to go in and work uh, in between the whole 1 weekend a month deal, and
right,
that
right.
helped me get enough experience and get to know everybody well enough that when a full time position did open up, it was kind of a, hey, you should go apply for this. So that's where I ended up, as just being, that's how I got into being full time Army National Guard. And then yeah, when 2005, 2006 rolls around, um, Hurricane Katrina happened, and our unit, a portion of our guys got sent down there to assist with the relief efforts of Katrina. And they told us, they're like, pack your bags because you might be going to Katrina, and we're going to leave from there and go like straight over to Iraq. That's not quite what ended up happening, but fairly close. We had some of the guys. We ended up going to Fort Hood for a few months, um, and so there was a handful of guys came from New Orleans straight to Fort Hood. Um, but yeah, so now we're up to, I guess, getting ready to go to Iraq, and excuse me. So I know in the early stages, like then that first push going into Iraq in what, 03, they mobilized a lot of guard and reserve troops, and then before we had a foothold set up, there was convoys from Kuwait up into wherever your area of operations was. And I know there was a lot of National Guard and reserves guys that kind of got fucked up during these convoy operations, because a lot of them just don't train as much for that kind of shit. It's like, oh, we're a supply company or we're an aviation group. Why are we going to be running convoys? Well, they never really trained for that kind of stuff. So basically, the Army decided, okay, we're going to train all of these National Guard guys. We're going to give them this green training. So that's the development of those mount sites. For any of y'all that have been in there, those fake cities that look like you're kind of in the Middle East, they developed a bunch of those, or they were building them back then in '05. It was usually a lot of connexes and shit with a few holes cut in the side to simulate buildings and stuff like that. But yeah, so they had us out there training, doing convoy ops, kicking in doors, live shoot houses, live fires from turrets, all that stuff. Pretty much everything except our actual MOS, all the green training as we called it. And then once we got signed off that we were good enough, then they shipped us out over to Iraq. But like I said, this is late 2005, early 2006. Actually, no. This by the time we actually set boots in ground, it was late 2006. And
Can I let you know real quick? I left Fallujah the year before, like '05 August. So we were just like crossing over. I left
yeah,
'05. You came back in '06.
yeah, might have passed each other in Kuwait because we got delayed there at Camp Beering for a while.
Tell me about it. Hey, hold on. You one of the few guys I can talk to about Kuwait. All right.
Yeah,
All right. One time, one one particular time in my life, I ran into a situation where this woman was like, yes, my husband's in Kuwait. And I was like, I haven't gone to Iraq 3 times. I was like, oh, he's in Kuwait, man. He's good. He's sleeping on the carpets and, he's got good beds. He can go to the internet. They got fast food and all. I mean, I was telling her, like, no,
yeah,
he has good. He's safe. But she was like, well, no, it's dangerous over there for everybody. And, you know what I mean?
yeah,
With
yeah,
me being an infantry guy and him never leaving Kuwait, I was like, man, unless he's, lying to you, new bombs is dropping on him in Kuwait. You know what I mean? I don't know what he was telling
yeah,
them back home, bro, but yeah. I'm
yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, bro. I just
No,
had to
bro,
throw
you're
that
good.
in.
You're good. No, no, I think it's because a lot of us. I mean, I know there were obviously there were people there that were stationed at Kuwait that had to facilitate all of us transients coming to and from, right?
Right,
But
right.
uh, but yeah, there's Kuwait was kind of a unique place. But yeah, for us that were actually going over into Iraq or Afghanistan, coming out of it, going back to Iraq, we're like, this is vacation now. Like the party
Damn
started.
right. Kuwait
Yeah,
was the spot, bro.
yeah. I don't. Do you remember
Air
it was?
condition.
Oh yeah, we had air conditioning. You're like, damn, this is nice. The electricity and the trailers they had on the side for the showers and shit. And you're like, damn, hot
Yeah.
water. Uh, but yes. No, one thing about while we're just on Kuwait real quick, Ali Al Saleen. Um, that was the major transient hub, and it was just like the whole giant tent city. Like you got there, you had to sit in these chairs for like a couple hours and do your in processing, and then they'd release you out to the wild essentially, and you would step out. I think everyone remembers you'd see those little tiny golden arches over the top of all the tents, and everyone would go hit that fucking McDonald's just because you haven't seen a McDonald's in 6 months or a year, and you're like, oh fuck yeah! And at first, it don't look like it's that far away, but you start walking through those tents, and you're like, fuck, am I lost? Are we ever gonna get there? Yeah, and then you got there, and you ordered like your quarter pounder, your Big Mac, and it's like did not taste like an American McDonald's. You're like, shit, is this made out of camel or some fucking shit? I don't. But it was good enough though, right? It was close enough. You're like, yes. Uh, but
Did it fuck up your stomach though after being on that military diet?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially yeah, you get like some McDonald's fries. And of course, you get like the large ones because you
Grease.
haven't had them.
Everything
Yeah,
with grease, man. We don't use grease in the military.
yeah, exactly.
Check it
Yeah,
out. I
so
had to drive. I had to drive from Cali, my base, back home to Florida, and the whole time I had a bottle of Pepto Bismol in my lap, just because of that. I couldn't stop and eat fast food without, like you said.
yeah,
That's
yeah, because your
crazy
body
shit,
gets
though.
used to not having that shit. So
Yeah.
But yeah, you go throwing down like a baconator, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, what the fuck happened?
You damn right,
Uh,
man. You damn
yep,
right.
yep. But so yeah, I guess we'll cycle on back now to Iraq itself. So
Mhm.
Iraq
This is the
wasn't.
first one. This
It
is
was the first deployment.
oh 06, right?
'06, correct.
Oh 06. All right.
And I guess I'll go on a little side note. So I got married in the end of '05 to my now ex-wife and the mother of 3 out of 4 of my kids. I had I had one at 18 from previous before I met my current ex-wife, um, my oldest. But yeah, so but she's the mother of my other boys, and but we got married in September of 2005, and our very first anniversary was um, me Camp Beering on our way into Iraq. So, but more on that later. So, being the first deployment, you hear all the stories and shit like that. And then I had the guys in the unit, the guys that deployed before or, since like the Cold War or some shit like that. But, so yeah, finally getting in there, kind of seeing it for yourself, kind of experiencing it. And so for me, I was in Balad, Camp Anaconda, made the big Air Force ran base. Of course, they had the Air Force side, like the main side where the main terminal was, where Saddam's Olympic-sized pool and movie theater was. That was the side that the Air Force took over, and then the other side that was just desert wasteland. They're like, yeah, Army guys, you can set up over there somewhere. Like, we don't care where. So, but yeah, unique experience. The hangars we had there, they were the hangars themselves were built by Saddam and his regime, and they were like reinforced, 6 foot thick. Uh, well, it looked kind of like a football buried like halfway into the dirt. It was just like this big concrete dome, and so they worked great as far as being bunkers for us with all the mortars that would come raining down. And when we got there, the unit we were replacing, they're showing us around, and they take us up because you just kind of walk right up the side and up onto the roof, and there was this big red target, and it was pink at this point, but it was this big target painted on the roof, and they were like, "Yeah, you guys need to repaint this." They were like, "Well, why is this here?" And they're like, "Because those fuckers hit everything but what they're aiming at." So, so it was like they're like, so it keeps us safe. We're like, a deal, fucking, we'll do it. So yeah, so we're up there, like day 3 with fucking bright red paint rolling out that fucking big ass target on the roof. And come find out later on, yeah, it was. They were right. They're because they would launch these mortars, and that was the biggest thing for us in Iraq. We had a couple squads of guys. We had to go pull guard duty in the towers. So we had guys taking little pot shots from the locals or whatever. Of course, but our main mission for all of us maintainers, uh, we're the ground crew in fucking Black Hawk Down that nobody remembers, right? See all the helicopters taking off with the badasses loaded up. You see the ground crew over there cheering them on.
Yeah, I
That was
remember.
us. So
Hey, but it
yeah,
takes y'all. It takes y'all to
yeah,
make that shit
yeah,
happen. So a grunt like me understands that. We need air. We need
yeah,
air
yeah,
art. We need everybody. So salute to you, bro. I
oh
thank you.
yeah. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I was okay with it. Yeah, some people. There was a time like in the vet community where it was like, oh, if you weren't a grunt, you're garbage. Yeah, maybe, but we're not. We all have to. We all play a role. We all play a part, right? I was happy with my role. I never really felt bad about it, and anybody who seriously talks shit, whatever. That's your deal. It's cool, bro. But that's a whole nother topic for another time. But anyway, um, But that was our biggest threat, was indirect fire. We'd be working, sitting out there, sweating, cussing, talking shit, and they had the base was set up with that they call it the phalanx system. So those little robots. I think it was originally developed by the Navy. It's that little like R2 looking robot, has like a little minigun on the side of it to shoot down the mortars, and it was like 60% of the time it worked every time. So but yeah, so the indirect fire was the big thing we had to deal with, and after a while, you hear the alarm going off, and you know they train you. They tell you, like, as soon as you hear that alarm, just run for the nearest bunker. Go to the nearest bunker, and but on a large base like that, you kind of got to where you just would stop and listen, and you'd listen for the impact, and you'd hear it off in the distance. Like, oh, way the fuck over there, we're good, and just keep going on about your day. Now, there was one time, the way our hangar was laid out, and set up, was we had you had the main like main runways out over here, then you had a taxiway, and off the taxiway, kind of like tree branches, it would just fork off to the individual hangars. And our Chinooks, unless we were pulling the blades off and stuff like that, wouldn't fit inside the hangar. So unless it was a major maintenance, most all their maintenance was done on the outside. And so we're out there and we're working on it, and we're all we're like ants on a cookie, just crawling all over this fucking aircraft, getting shit done. And alarms didn't even go off, but at the end of that concrete, it was just dirt in between the taxiway and the runway, just sand. And we're sitting there and we're working, and you just hear this. We look over, and we see the tail of a fucking mortar sticking up out of the dirt about 6 inches from the edge of that concrete, which was about maybe 50 yards from where we were working. So
You
yeah,
got
so
that
it
close
didn't go
shit,
off. It
man.
just, I don't know if it was a dud or
You
because it
got
missed the concrete. Yeah,
it was a dud, but it was close as fuck. It was enough
yeah,
to
we
make you know, like, yeah,
yeah,
that could have
we're
been
all
my
puckered there.
ass.
Yeah, we're sitting
That
there
could
like,
have been
oh
my.
shit, looking at each other like, oh damn, did that. And then we had to stop operations,
Yeah.
and the EOD guys came out. So have a video somewhere. I have to go find all these videos. I got a little SD, or no, they're still on a disc. Jim, I have a disc with some of these videos on them, but yeah, we got the video of the EOD guys coming out. They just blew it up in place and stuff like that. But yeah, but other than that, that was the major threat we had to deal with. And but you're still kind of in that state of hypervigilance. Especially, we had a detachment of medevac birds in Camp Echo, which is south of Baghdad, Diwania area. Uh, oh, you there?
Yeah, I was there, bro. I crossed that Diwania. Yeah, I crossed the Diwania Bridge on the
Oh,
way to
hell yeah!
Baghdad, bro. The first time when we crossed the border to get in, and fucking the Iraqis blew a hole in the damn bridge, so we had to like find metal planks to cover
Right.
that hole, and we could only
Oh
cross
man.
on foot. And yeah, yeah. So I'm sorry, you said Diwania, bro. You took me back to being 19, and that first time on the Baghdad
No,
hunt.
no worries,
I'm
bro. It's
sorry
just
about that.
it's cool to see like how much of us actually overlap, even though we didn't meet each other until fucking 20 years later. It's like you find out like, oh shit, we were like across the base from each other, or we walked in the same footprints, at some point. So I think that's always
Yeah,
I think that's
that's the
pretty
way it
cool.
works.
But yeah, so but by the time I was there in '06, the little that Camp Echo there outside Diony was run by the Polish, if I recall correctly. And but
Yeah, all right.
its base was this was like a small camp. The whole perimeter was 2 miles, and it was just all T walls, so it was real
All right.
small. And due to uh, politics at the time, the Polish troops were not allowed to um, leave the camp to go fuck anyone up that was launching rockets at the base. I guess they had one guy got killed on like defending the base, and so the Polish politicians were like, "No, you stay on base." But these politicians who have no fucking real world combat experience don't know that that's actually more fucking dangerous for us than going out. Yeah.
To
So that
sit.
same bridge that you crossed over, what those guys would like to do is because it didn't take them long to figure out. Well, we can camp out up here all fucking night, and we got a great view overlooking the whole base, and we can just fucking start walking these rockets in on our targets. We'll launch one or two just to see where they land, and then we'll start making adjustments. And that's what brought me there, is because they hit they hit a few of our freaking aircraft, our medevac birds. So that's what we were there, was to assess and see what we could do, if anything, to try to get these birds back up. So that was also life lesson as far as how politics, like the politicians obviously just don't give a flying fuck, right? They can tell their people like, oh, we're helping, but it's like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and really you're making it more dangerous for us. But yeah,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
that place, that was a wild place, because especially me spending all my time up at that point on that huge base like Balad. um they didn't have an alarm system at Echo. They didn't sound an all clear, because you know they didn't want the guys on the outside thinking, oh, they're all walking around again, let's start shooting at it. Let's launch more mortars at them. um so
Damn right.
yeah, so their operating procedures were a little bit different. um Nobody ate inside the chow hall, because I guess it had been taken out 3 times. So people would just go there, grab
Oh
their
shit.
food, and just get the hell out. They wouldn't stay inside there. It was like a ghost town inside that place. Um, yeah, whole different culture, whole different attitude. The first night we were there, um, there was an attack on the front gate. One of those things where they drove car up, blew it up, and then was going to have like one or two more trucks kind of ram the gate after the first V bed went off.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but the Polish guys that are pulling security at the gate, they were allowed to defend that gate. And when that car bomb went off for all of us inside, we had no warning. And at the time, that was the biggest and closest explosion I had felt. And so that, where everyone's diving into the bunkers, and of course we're in their transient housing. So me and my crew, we're all scattered. So I ended up in a bunker. They're trying to do a head count, and I'm with like a whole different group of dudes. It's not even part of my unit. Um, but um, but anyway, you hear the initial explosion. I could feel it, and but when they started trying to run them trucks up, those Polish boys, they're pissed off. They want to go fuck these guys up. They don't like sitting there just taking it. So, the wave of fire that went off after, I mean, it was like a symphony. It was impressive. These guys were lighting up anything that moved. Like, yeah, come on, motherfuckers, keep trying this. Like, they wanted it bad. The soldiers on the ground, those guys were like ready to go. But
Hold on, I gotta make sure I'm hearing this right. So, because I have experience in Iraq with foreign militaries too. I happen to deal with the Azerbaijanis, the AZs. But what you just told me is that something I never ever heard. In Iraq, the Polish got into it and shot at Iraq for trying to
yes,
attack them.
yes, because they had their own QRF, but whenever they would lob mortars, they'd send the QRF out to go fuck those guys up. But then their politicians said, no, don't leave the base. So for like weeks, months, I don't know how long it was, they're just sitting there fucking just taking these fucking rock. So it was like
Taking rounds.
the
Taking
moment they had a
rounds.
chance to fucking return fire and do something about it, they unleashed.
They
They
let
were like ready
loose.
for it, man. No, that was good.
You
Uh,
damn right.
but yeah, so ended up, lifting the helicopter out of there, back, to base. It was beyond repair. Um, but overall, yeah, that was the most of it. Had a couple of aircraft from our sister units got shot down. They lost some people. But on this particular rotation, we didn't lose anybody of our own guys. Fortunately, we had a
Mhm.
couple of them get shot down. On that same disc of the mortar, I have a video because the fuck it, the Hajis, they like to record everything, for their own propaganda. And basically, what they did is, as our helicopters were, I can't remember if they're doing an exfil or infill. They're dropping somebody off, picking them up, but they're still fairly low altitude. But they were just screaming across the terrain, and they had one of those old Russian anti-aircraft guns, and you can hear them like do 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 do, and they ended up taking out the tail rotor, which is kind of what you see in the movie Black Hawk Down. You see how the tail rotors kind of, if they even just take a round, it throws them off balance. Eventually, they'll just vibrate themselves to pieces.
Yep.
Um, so they took
Yep.
around there. The pilot, he kind of, he could feel it in his pedals. You could feel that vibration. So at a certain airspeed, if you're going forward fast enough with the way the Black Hawk is shaped, um, even if you lose tail rotor, you'll still fly in a straight line because you got enough wind resistance keeping it forward. You won't start spinning like that. So once he felt that vibration, that's what our pilot did. Is he just
Okay.
punched it, just hauled an ass. Eventually, tail rotor gave way, and he held onto it, keeping it straight as long as he could, and then managed to set it down in a way like it still rolled onto its side and all the dramatic Hollywood shit you can think of, but he landed it in a way that everyone was able to walk away, and he got out of the area where the guy's shooting at him. They're far enough away that they weren't a factor anymore. But yeah, so that happened, and then we get a copy of the video of those goon fuckers shooting at our fucking bird, and that was like my first taste of it was like a deeper anger I think than I've ever really felt. And I think maybe
Hmm. I call
yeah,
it war anger, dog. Not anger management. I call it war
yeah,
anger
exactly.
management because we're allowed to kill. We're allowed to kill. We
Yeah,
get paid to
and that's what
eliminate
you're
threats,
trained to do it. Like that's what
and then you
exactly.
get
Hell
paid to
yeah.
do it.
But yeah, I mean, that's all the basic training was, and then all that green training we did right beforehand. That's what they were refocusing and sharpening our skills on, was all that green training. Like, you're a rifleman first. This is what Let's refresh you. Let's go do this shit. So yeah, I mean, you see that, and you're like, I want to go fuck these guys up. I get how those Polish dudes felt. I mean, it's kind of the same thing when you're on that large base. And I said this once to one of the the vet bros. It was like, fucking pogs, all these pogs clogging up the VA. I'm like, well, it's pretty frustrating when you get these mortars, rockets, random stray rounds. Because sometimes it was a matter of they'd pull up to the fence and fucking empty a mag, spray and pray, just lobbing even just stray 7.62 rounds into the base. And it's like all this shit's coming in at you, but you can't. There's nothing you can go do about it. So it's pretty frustrating dealing with that. And then same thing watching that video, those guys shooting down our helicopter. It was like, I mean, we kind of build, as a mechanic, you kind of build a relationship with the machine, right? And our job is to take care of it because we know this machine is taking care of not only our crew that we're actually work with every day, but whoever's on board, whether it's a medevac, whether they're dropping off a team of Rangers, they're picking up some infantry guys, even if they're hauling cargo out to, you know, all those dudes on those remote tiny fobs up in the mountains. Like we develop these bonds with these aircraft. So A, it's the aircraft itself is, you're fucking my shit up. And then B, those are my friends on there too, motherfucker. So yeah, that was that first moment of that war anger that it was like just a deeper, it was like a whole new level of just anger and rage that, you know, I mean, sure, been angry before. You're playing football, you're talking shit to some guy on the field, or you get into fights in high school or whatever. My mom passed away when I was 17. That caused some anger issues, but this was like a whole new, like different level. Um, but for the most part, after that, the remainder of our tour to Iraq, it went fairly smooth. I guess as smooth as they can be, right? Um, and then so eventually, yeah, we got to pack up and get the hell out of there, get back home.
Hold on. Can I ask you about something that I never got to hear about that you've been talking
No,
about
please.
just now? All right, bro. As a grunt, I never got to hear about I mean there was once I remember hearing about a plane being shot down by the Iraqis once, but I didn't know until what you just said that we were losing more than one on more than one occasion. And I didn't fucking know that, bro. So if you don't mind, you just explained everything, but just like I said, to those of us who didn't know or were in your air
Right.
wing or what do you call it,
We
squadron,
still call them battalions in the Army. Yeah.
battalion? All right. Oh, my
Yeah, yeah,
bad. Same thing then. I'm in a Marine battalion, so yeah, bro. I never knew all this was going on with air and air defense and these air losses, man, until you just told me today, 20 years
yeah.
fucking later. You mind talking about
Um,
that a little bit?
I can
Can you
expand a little
expound?
bit. Actually, when I get up to the Afghanistan deployment, that was the major. Um, we had one of our birds get shot down in Afghanistan. Um, that was the major one. But like I said, having the dudes from like our sister unit. So like same thing. We got our companies, a bunch of companies form the battalion. So it was one of the other. I'm excuse. It's been a while. A bunch of companies formed the battalion. A bunch of battalions formed the brigade, and so it was our whole aviation brigade was there, and it was a sister battalion within our brigade. They're the ones that actually lost. I think they lost it was like 12 or 15 people, I believe, was on a Black Hawk when they got shot down. Um, so of course, we hear about it, and like we know a few of the guys because we're for the most part, we're busy keeping to ourselves in our own hangars. But every once in a while, like, hey, can we trade some parts, or just kind of bullshitting on some downtime. So yeah, we knew some of them, but we didn't like personally know them. So it was closer to home. Like, oh shit, those guys are like right next door. Um, but I couldn't tell you the total number of aircraft that were lost or damage to enemy fire. I honestly I have no idea about that, but especially with the helicopters, that stuff does happen because they're the most vulnerable. uh, like I said, at the point of pickup and drop off, whether it's people or cargo, and I think that's one of the things that makes like that movie Black Hawk Down so good is that's where it kind of illustrates, right? That's where most of the damage happened to the aircraft was when they're dropping somebody off, they're dropping the guys off, right? That's when they're stationary. They're kind of like just big sitting ducks at that point. So, and that's obviously especially the longer the conflict goes on, the enemy kind of figures that out. So that's kind of what they try to set up, right? It's kind of what they stage. So um, I will skip ahead a little bit. I keep talking. My cigarette keeps going out on me. Yeah,
Shit happens, man. Shit happens when you're talking and
yeah.
have a good time. Your cigarette even goes
But
out.
yeah. So basically, we had see. So I got back in 2008. So I was at home for about 2.5 years, 2.5 years, and then they're like, okay, well, we got to start gearing up. We're going to Afghanistan. And this time it was a little bit different. That Iraq deployment, they took the whole brigade. But typically, what they would do is they would pull just one company out of our aviation unit And so, like, one company would be kind of the general support Blackhawks, one company is the medevac Blackhawks, one company is the Chinooks, and then like the maintenance company and stuff like that. So for Afghanistan, all they pulled was our company of Chinooks. This
What
was
year?
we had boots on ground from 2011 to 2012.
All right.
So yeah, they pulled us all in, or they took just the Chinook company. Well, the Chinook company just kind of hand selected a handful of us maintainers to kind of supplement them and keep them going because don't really know what support they're going to have along the way and once we get there, kind of a deal. But so typically that's what they were doing, was they just kind of pull certain chunks of our National Guard unit and attach them to supplement the active duty guys. And so we get there to Afghanistan, and part of us are attached to 7th Battalion, 101st Aviation guys to supplement them. And then a little section of our unit got sent off to some other little smaller bases to augment some of the types of operations we normally not supposed to talk about. People always want to think like, because of all the movies and shit, that every single time a SEAL or a Ranger or even any kind of advanced infantry goes out on a mission, it's always like the badass 160th helicopters. Iraq and Afghanistan were such huge theaters, especially going on simultaneously. The 160th could not keep up.
Yeah. Two wars
They
at the
couldn't meet the
same time.
demand, even
Shit.
even just with one of those theaters, because of how large they were. They couldn't meet the demand. So the military the military started identifying certain units that had proven themselves like, hey, these guys are capable to meet our mission requirements, so we're going to pull from them to support us, since the 160th, they're the special forces of aviation. Since they can't support us, we got some guys we've identified that have the ability. They've proven that they can. And so yeah, Afghanistan, that one was a kick in the nuts, because again, I was on Kandahar, again, big international base. So primarily the indirect fire was the main goal. So kind of same shit again, but this time it was like, same shit. We're used to this. It's no big deal. But it was like day 9, day 10. And typically what happens is when we rotate in like that, one pilot from our unit will fly with the unit we're replacing. So that way it's kind of like showing them around, showing them the ropes. Here's the routes, here's the areas, here's the hot spots. So we only had a few crew members on this particular aircraft because they were we're still doing that. It's called left seat, right seat transition period.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Between each unit. Change over
yes,
between each unit.
but they're still flying real fucking missions. Um, I'm not sure if anyone's heard about the 31 Heroes or Extortion 17, but that,
I know of I know of a personal story of 31 Marines, but I don't know if you're talking about the same who passed away in a helicopter crash after they just survived the major battle of Fallujah. Like as I was coming in, they flew out and 31 of them passed. And that fucked me up for a
this is
long
not
time. So you're not talking
no,
about
it's
that
not this.
incident,
No,
right?
this is a different, separate incident.
All right.
But yeah, see,
All
so
right.
again, this kind of shows how often, because when I tell the real details of this story, I guess that movie, I think Mark Wahlberg was in it, the Lone Survivor movie. Apparently, that sounds a lot like the plot to that, but I think that one happened in like 03, 04. So maybe Lone Survivor is based off of the Marines in Fallujah. I'm not sure. I never watched it because I've never seen that movie. But when I heard that the scenario of our aircraft being lost was very similar to that, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch that shit. I don't need to see that shit, so I'm not watching that movie. But essentially, uh, they one group of aircraft went. They dropped some guys off to go conduct their mission. They take off out of there. Well, the guys on the ground are getting ambushed and overrun. They're calling for more support. So they're scrambling, like, okay, well, how are we going to get these guys out there? How are we going to get that backup that they need out there? Because the aircraft that were coming back, they didn't have the fuel to pick up the guys and make the turnaround. Well, we had some other guys that just got done topping off from a different mission. So they hopped on the radio and said, hey, we just got fresh fuel. Engines are hot. You know, where do you want us to pick them up? We'll take them right now. And so they loaded up it was a team of SEALs, a working dog, a couple interpreters, and they took off to fly them out there to go support the other guys that were getting pinned down. And right as they were coming in for the landing on the exfil or the infill to let those guys out, it was a mountainous area, and I guess they had a handful of guys with RPGs just waiting, kind of up, like it was kind of coming down a valley like this. So the area they were landing in was down here, but you had the peaks of the mountains up here. And so they had a handful of dudes with RPGs hiding just on the backside of these peaks. So as they're coming down and getting ready to land, like I said, that's the dangerous time. That's when they're sitting ducks. I think if I recall correctly, I might misrecall this a little bit, but I want to say like 3 or 4 dudes popped up, fired their RPGs at the helicopter, but one hit home, and it was basically a lucky enough shot that there was nothing nobody could do, and nobody walked away. So, like I said, that was day 9, day 10 for us. So it's kind of like I said, kicking the nuts. Here's a reality check. Now you've not only did you lose your aircraft, but you've lost a few of your guys too. Welcome to Afghanistan. So that kind of set the tone for the rest of that deployment. For the most part, fortunately for us, the remainder of that deployment was uneventful. It was shorter than our Iraq deployment. The Iraq deployment, we spent a full 12 months boots on ground. This deployment, we spent about 10 months boots on ground. But yeah, so having that happen just right out of the gate, like I said, yeah, just set the tone. You just feel it with everyone. It was a lot different. But like I said, for the most part, the remainder of that deployment was uneventful as far as any major mishaps, loss of life, or anything like that. At least for us, and nothing major that I know of as far as anyone else I knew at the time. Now, one thing that was funny about the time in Afghanistan, we had a guy with us. He was a Black Hawk mechanic, and he deployed with us to Iraq, and he got out soon after. But he was kind of a short, kind of goofier looking kid, but he kind of resembled that dude Butters from South Park. And you know how, so that's what we always called him. We always called him Butters, right? And of course he hated it, but that's how the nicknames in the military work, right? If you get stuck with one, it's not usually for something good, right? So now what was funny is, he separates from the military. and he goes and becomes one of those civilian contractors. So they have a lot of civilian contractors also to help supplement doing aircraft maintenance and stuff like that. Well, he ends up as a civilian contractor in the hangar right next to us. And then I say in Afghanistan, I say hangar, but our hangars are basically kind of those giant clamshell tents. But so we're just walking on our way to work one day, and he's standing out front with the rest of the civilians smoking and drinking their coffee. And he sees us, and he was like, "Oh, hey, what's up, guys?" And we all look at him. We're kind of shocked. We're like, "Butters?" And he had worked so hard to make sure that that secret stayed fucking buried. You could tell because as soon as we looked at him, we're like, "Butters, what are you doing here?" The rest of the civilian crew, they looked at us, they looked at him, and then just lost it, started laughing. So now they started calling him Butters again too after he'd worked so hard to fucking keep that shit buried. But just out of his bad luck that he got stationed right next to us.
Hey, what's his real last name?
Shit. Damn, I can't even remember now.
It's all right. It doesn't matter. I know it's been long, but y'all called that motherfucker
Yeah,
Butters, right?
yeah, because he was kind of short, had
Right.
kind of soft spoken, and we all had the kept our hair cut tight, but he had his high and tight kind of extra tight. So even Butters on the show, it looks like he had this little puff of hair right in the middle. That was just kind of how his looked because he had like the super high,
Gotcha.
super tight. So yeah, shit,
Gotcha.
what the heck? Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you a quick
all
one. A
right,
quick one I went through. I had a Mexican Marine roommate, and his last name was 9 letters. So the day I checked in from Orlando, it's like he didn't have a name. Everyone just called him T9. That's meaning,
yeah,
the
yeah.
first letter was T and 9 letters after that. And so we all just called him T9 before.
Yeah. Well,
So
we
I
had a dude
get you.
like that. We
Yeah.
called him A
Yeah.
to Z because his last name was like Arazcayeta. So he had like A's and Z's and all kinds of shit in the middle. So yeah, it was just like A to Z. That's him. Yeah, same thing. But yeah, yeah. Other than that, so that kind of I guess that sums up both the deployments. I mean, I'm sure I could come up with other stories, but those are kind of the highlights, I guess, of both of them.
All right. All right. Now, continue your transition from after that Afghanistan tour to whenever you left the service, to how your marriage was going, to you becoming now known online as a military radio host and in the social media world as Bender, the Army, Iraq, and Afghanistan war
All right.
veteran. Keep that transition going post
All right.
Afghanistan.
Yeah. So after getting back from Afghanistan, so we get back in uh, oddly Memorial Day, so May of 2012. Um, and like typical, have there's that whole honeymoon phase everyone goes through for lasts a little while. Um, but and for us, we got terminal leave and all this other stuff, so you get like a couple months off really. But during that couple months, right? Actually, it was like 1 week after I think I just started going back to work. Um, but this is what got me out of the military was it got ruled as an unprovoked blood clot. Um, it formed in my leg, and one night, I was like having this leg pain, and I'm like, man, they must have pulled my calf or something. I don't know. Then one night, I just had this intense chest pain, fucking sweating, like like I was in like the fetal position, but like face down, clutching my chest. Um, my wife at the time, she's like, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I don't know." But come to find out, it was a blood clot passing through my heart in that moment. Yeah.
Damn.
Uh, and I found out that this had happened to like a few other people, like within 6 months within my unit. But the difference that got me out versus getting them out of the military service is I do have a family history of what they call clotting disorders, um, where your blood's just hypercoagulative, and so you have to take like a blood thinner to kind of maintain that so you don't get blood clots. So I have a few family members, even though they ran the test because those are genetic uh, conditions that can get passed down. They ran all the tests. They drew a bunch of blood, had no idea what caused it. You know, wasn't the genetic things. But I mean, this kind of hematology and blood science is still relatively new, honestly. Um, However, the recommendation I had from doctors was, obviously put you on a blood thinner for a while. They give you this special shit to break up the clot that's in your lung, and that takes a couple of weeks. But then they put you on regular blood thinners. So, excuse me. They, but the difference between me and the other guys that this happened to was as soon as the threat had passed, they decided to come off the blood thinner so they could stay in the military. Now, I don't know anything about their family or medical histories, but my doctors are telling me because I have a pretty strong family history of these clotting disorders, they highly recommend I continue taking these blood thinners to prevent it from happening again. Because once you have one blood clot, I guess the chances of it happening again go up. And normally, even if you do have a clotting disorder, it doesn't affect you till you're into your 40s. I was 29 at the time. I was about a month away from my 30th birthday. So they were like,
Yeah.
the fact that you're so young, you've already had, actually, that was the second one. The first one must have happened and I didn't notice it because they call it an infarction, where when the blood clot hits your lung, it kind of makes a little dead spot in your lung. Like it kills like little,
Mm.
what do they call them, cilia, whatever those little things are in your lungs that actually suck in the oxygen. There's a name for it.
Yeah, cilia, the
Yeah,
hairs.
yeah.
Yeah.
It actually, where it hits, it kills them in that spot. So when they did the
Mm.
CT scan to verify that clot in my lung, they could see there was another dead like infarction somewhere else in my lung. So that must have been a really tiny one that I didn't notice, or like it was just like, ugh, that was fucking weird. I guess I need a Tums. You know what I mean? Like it must have been a real small one.
Mm.
Um, so basically, like, yeah, this you've already had two. Plus, you have this family history. We highly recommend you keep taking this medication. So, at this point, I've got a wife, mortgage, 4 boys, all dependent on me. I was like, okay, I'll continue taking the medication. Well, that rendered me non-deployable, and this was during the Obama administration when they were trying to downsize the military, and so the top two people they were going after to kick out was non-deployables and PT failures. Um, And I kind of get the non-deployable thing because you had some people that were in there that were classified as non-deployable, but have been milking it for 10 years. Um, so my only hope to stay in was to find a non-deployable unit, or um, or get out. But yeah, the only non-deployable unit was on the other side of the state, and my wife at the time did not want to move. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm getting out. And so because they were in such a rush to do the downsizing, it took, let's see, the actual blood clot that happened in October of 2012. I was out the door, out processed by June of 2013. Um, and I had a lot of mixed feelings about it. I had a discussion with one of the guys from my unit several years later. And I was still kind of having some issues about getting out the way I did. Having an issue like that, where it's like, here, you got to take this medicine now. When you're young, all fucking hua, cock strong, you feel invincible. And then so you get that reality check, like, nah, or you think you're going down, in a blaze of glory or some shit like that, but we find out it's like something internal fucks with your head. You're kind of like, shit, there's something wrong with me. Am I less of a man because I'm not fucking like perfect peak condition? Even though physically I was still fully capable of everything I was before, I just had to take this damn medicine that rendered me non-deployable. But I was struggling with that. But the conversation I had with the guy was he was what we called one of the weekenders. So I actually started working with him at one of my civilian jobs afterwards. Didn't realize he worked there until I already been working there for a couple of months. But we got partnered together one day, and he was just starting the process of getting out. But because his contract was up, he didn't want to renew. He felt like he'd done his time. And but what I told him was, I was like, I think when you get out, when you're ready, when you want to, when it's your choice, some guys still have some regrets and second thoughts after the fact, but I think it's a little bit easier when you're planning on staying the long haul, but then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, they're like, you're not good enough. You can't help us anymore. So since you can't help me, get the fuck out. You're a piece of shit. That was kind of the attitude and the experience I had upon getting out was, you're not helpful, you're not useful, so bye. And so yeah, it was just kind of
That's
sudden.
hard shit. That's hard shit.
Yeah,
After the sacrifices you make.
yeah. After giving so much of yourself to it, and you're planning for the long haul, it's like the second you're no longer useful to them, it's like
Yeah.
nobody knows you. Goodbye, get out. And that's kind of that kind of had me struggling for a little while.
All sacrifices seem like nullified, voided.
Right, like it's like, oh shit, I just guess I was just wasting all my time these last 10 years. Um, but
Fuck, you're right. It can make you feel like that.
mm-hmm. And so on the home front, things were, I'd say the signs of stress were already kind of showing a little bit. I think we all know, I think a lot of us have been there, especially if you're married to someone pre-deployment and then post-deployment. It almost seems inevitable you get that you're not the same guy anymore from your spouse or whoever, somebody close to you. And of course, I don't think they realize how much of a slap in the face that really is. Um, and I know I definitely still had my issues. Even to this day, I kind of mellowed out a little while there, but I think that was more due to depression rather than anything. But really long time still living that like hyper awareness state, always aware of looking for constant threats, identifying all the shit. Um, I was very hard up on getting my family trained, teaching my boys how to shoot young. We got into martial art, or I got everybody into martial arts because I'm like, even I'm out of the military, but they go to school, I go to work. I can't physically be there 24/7, so I was really driving this factor of like I'm making sure my family's capable to handle themselves till somebody, you know what I mean? Because I knew I couldn't be around 24/7. That's impossible. Um, and at the
Yeah.
time, I thought I was doing the right thing because everyone seemed kind of happy to be learning this stuff and things like that. But later on, years down the road, that kind of got thrown in my face about making them do that. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry for making you more capable, but if you want to resent me for it, I guess please do. Uh, and I'm not going to bag on my ex-wife. I'm not trying to by any means. She did a very good job of keeping the kids involved and keeping me around as involved as much as possible while I was deployed. She did a lot of great things. A lot of great things. But and in a lot of ways, I know she tried to do her best, but sometimes, despite trying your best, it's not always the right thing or the best thing. Um, for a while, I believe that her honest effort was really there, but I don't know, kind of turned into the family life side. It turned into one of those deals. I think a lot of us kind of experienced this because it's a common theme I've seen a lot. That feeling of I can't do anything right. Everything I do is just fucked up. Fuck everything up. I'm always the one ruining the good days. Whatever it is, I'm always the one ruining shit. Apparently I'm just intolerable. Nobody
Yeah.
can stand me. Nobody likes me. And you're hearing that a lot
Yeah.
from, your spouse, your parents. Usually it's always people who are really close to you. Um,
Yep. Which makes it hurt the most
yeah, and when you
sometimes.
hear that shit enough, you really start believing it too. Um, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it was I know I was kind of struggling with some of my issues, from the deployments, especially the Afghanistan one. I know I know that I had got a diagnosis eventually of PTSD and depression, stuff like that. I guess they go hand in hand with each other. Um, so I know that the side effects of both of those can cause certain things, maybe unjustifiably lashing out, stuff like that, like especially in the military, we're used to prim, proper, I gave you this direction, execute. And if you don't execute to the letter of what you were told, you get your ass chewed for it. So I know that there were times I'm
Mm.
sure I treated my kids like my privates, you know what I mean? Not my kids. Things of that nature. I know I did things like that. But I also it took a while. When I finally hit my rock bottom place. Um, uh, the it was after I at this point it had been years. It was like 2018, it's 2019, so it had been several years. Uh, but before I get into this part, let me backtrack a little bit because another cause of strain and kind of how I got started with dysfunctional veterans and DV radio was shortly after getting out. At that time, their Facebook page was still one of the biggest pages on there, but there was something about it with the humor, the jokes, the whole dysfunctional theme. It felt right for me. Maybe part of it had to do with some of the shit I was dealing with in my personal life at the same time. Um, but I spent a lot of time on when I was on social media, just fucking around on the page, leaving comments, going to back then, you could go see the post to the pages, stuff like that. And but I also seen guys reaching out for help, and so if I could, I'd step in, just offer a little bit of advice here or there, or at least even that whole hey, you're not alone. A lot of us go through the same thing. You're not the only one deal. Well, I guess the admins of that page was they were scrubbing through and they were putting together a team um, of kind of essentially first responders to help reach out for that and kind of help guide people towards some resources that would be beneficial for them because the number of people reaching out or like just typing in there like oh I'm about ready to check out fuck this, that number was growing. So they were trying to build a team of moderators to essentially just kind of keep eyes on the page and step in whenever we've seen something like that, or the very few rules that DV did have, um, enforce those as well. The very minor rules, very few. Um, but And so that's kind of how I ended up getting started. And so for me, to me, I felt like, I was an NCO. I was a sergeant when I was in the military. And that's one of the things they teach you is, placing the needs of, you know, your subordinates and your unit before your own. And
Right.
so, and I took that shit to heart. So I was always making sure my guys were taken care of. I was the last one I was the last one at the chow hall. I was the last one to take a break. If there was one bottle of water left, I was handing it off to somebody else. Like, you know, making sure my guys are taken care of. And and
Damn good
so
leader.
basically, after having like a private email discussion back and forth with some of the admins and crew of DV, and basically saying, hey, if you'd like to come on as a moderator and help out with this, we'll like to have you. And I was like, cool. And so for me, I was excited about it because I felt like, okay, this is a good way for me to kind of continue that mission and still feel like I'm doing something, making a difference, right? Because I know that's another guy's aspect a lot of guys struggle with when they get out is you got purpose, you got mission, even if it's a dumbass mission of, hey, move this pile of rocks from here to over there, dig that. Oh, you put that hole in the wrong spot, fill it in and move the hole over here. Even with something dumb like that, you still got your purpose, your mission, your drive. You got your buddies around you that, we're all trauma bonded, dealing with the same bullshit. Um, so I felt like, that could be my purpose, that mission, that need for, it could scratch that itch, that I didn't have now that I was out. And, and it feels weird. It's rough because you're like, I've got this beautiful family, own a home, you know, I'm, they have a good life. They don't need anything. They're not wanting for anything. But why am I still not feeling like I'm fulfilled? And that's something to struggle with. And I still haven't really got a solid answer for that yet. That's one I wish I can come up with a good solid answer for. But yeah, I still haven't really solved that one yet. But uh, anyway, so that's how I initially got involved with the DV crew and was doing that for a while. And then eventually, uh, when the current leader of DV Radio, uh, Boner, took over, when Bo took over, they started rotating us into DV Radio, just kind of bring us on, share experience, talk about what we do as moderators on the DV page. And when it was my turn, I went on there for the show. And keep in mind, at this point in time, it was still, I mean, this so it was like 2014, 2015 ish, somewhere around that ballpark. Um, but we hadn't really communicated and talked to each other like through Zoom meetings or Skype. It was mostly email and text, typing, messengers, emails. So
Mm-hmm.
nobody had heard my voice before. And so once I got on the show, they were like, "Oh man, you got like a fucking great radio voice. Hey, can you record a few little things for us? Can you do this? Can you do that?" Um, I know
Yeah.
for a
Yep.
while, I recorded like a full like commercial for the DV farm that they were playing up there in New Hampshire, locally. I was like,
All
so I mean,
right.
it was fun.
That's
I was
what's
having some
up.
good time with that too. But at the time, that wasn't my primary mission. But so this also caused conflict, though. I'll kind of circle back now. This did cause some conflict on the home front as well, because as far as my, to my ex-wife, she's thinking when she found out I'm getting out, she was like relieved because okay, his job is the priority. It's the military kind of consumes not only your life but that of your family as well. So in her mind, she's relieved, like, okay,
Yeah.
this is closed, this is done. It's going to be just us. Everything's going to be great, happy. Um, and to a point, yes, I can totally see her point. and I was really trying to live that. I mean, I still had to have a regular night. I went to school, used my GI Bill, got some additional training, got a different job in a different field, um, mostly because the aviation jobs in the Denver area in Colorado, uh, there's not a whole lot of them that are at least well paying. Not, and so the few good ones there are, it's almost like you have to wait for somebody to die or retire and know somebody on the inside to recommend you, if you want those few like good paying aviation jobs in Colorado. So a lot of them you have to leave, and she didn't want to do that because that's where all her family's at. Um, but so it created another source of tension because for me it was a bit of an outlet for the barracks talk, the shit talking, the stuff that we would always do with the guys.
Mm.
It was a good outlet for that. And to me, it's like it's a part-time thing. I'm doing it online, unless like I'm actively engaged with somebody who's really going through the ringer right now. It's just kind of casual, just fucking around. But in her mind, it was keeping my focus elsewhere on the military, distracting me, keeping my focus from being fully on her, and the family to a point. Um, that was her stance on it. So it caused a lot of friction. So eventually I did kind of stop and took a little bit of a hiatus for shit, I guess a couple of years is what it ended up lasting. And in those couple of years, now I didn't really have that outlet either. So it really kind of started piling on us for me mentally, because even though I wasn't doing that anymore, um, like it was still that whole scenario of everything I was doing was still not good enough. Um,
Yeah.
and like I said, you can only hear that so much before you start believing it. And what really kind of let's see, I'm trying to think of the best way to say all this. you know, um, Eventually, this other woman comes along saying all the right things, like she knows us, she's a mutual friend, she sees everything. Um, and so for a little bit there in 2019, in that sense of isolation, um, I stepped out on my wife a little bit, and I'm not proud of it, and I'm not making any excuses. Those are actions that I made the conscious choice to make. So I'm not making any excuses and putting blame anywhere else for that. Um, but I was in a dark place at that point. Me and my wife were doing a lot of fighting, um, not really getting along. But then, you know, someone shows up and starts saying all the things that you need to hear. I mean, I allowed myself to play into it. Um, and of course, eventually everything comes out into the open. Um, Me and my wife separated for a little while, and then it was like after the brief separation, she approaches me and says, "Hey, um, why don't I'm willing to give us another shot? Try to move past this kind of a thing." And she's like, "But I've been telling you for years, you need to go get your ass in therapy. So that's going to be one of the conditions. Is if we're going to try to move on from this, you're going to have to go do some therapy and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Okay." Um, so that's when I finally started going in and trying to address some of my problems, my issues, things of that nature. And I've seen this therapist steadily. Um, at first, it was a couple times a month. Yeah, even when I first started seeing this therapist, so even after coming back, um, my ex-wife, she was hurt, obviously, angry, upset. whole different slew of emotions, as she's very fair, every right to do, or have those emotions, and very understandable. Any reasonable person would feel that way. Um, but every once in a while, she would get kind of in a mood where, I don't know, she to a point she wanted revenge. Um, so there was a lot of late nights of her just really laying into me, um, just and ultimately that's all it was. She just I'd hurt her. She was trying to find a way to hurt me. Um, and one of those nights, and the kids were kind of angry and upset a little bit too. Um, Again, understandably so. And so it was one of those nights after I came back after the separation. It had been a little while, but particularly unfun night for me. And so I went upstairs, and I'd actually had this planned out because I've been thinking about it for a while. And I'd even mentioned this little while before, it finally broke a little while before the whole side chick scenario. Broke it to my wife. That kind of came out because it's a lot of guys when they're having these dark thoughts, self harm, suicide. So a lot of times there's jokes about it, or in their own way, there are some kind of cries for help. It's like you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to let people around you know that you're thinking about doing this to yourself. But at the same time, sometimes you drop these subtle hints that you're hoping people will pick up on. Because even though you don't want to talk about it, it's like at the same time, you just want everyone to know what you're really going through. So it's a mixed bag of emotions. And eventually, based on something I had said or done, she had straight up asked me, like, that's what I was thinking. And I was like, yeah, have been for a while. And me at the time, it didn't help. Um, she had a nephew that was like early 20s. He was just gotten diagnosed with like a thyroid cancer thing. Um, you know, Prognosis sounded good, like he was going to be just fine after some surgery. But it's still, that's one of those things you just never really know, right? And then that's scary, major thing. I'm not trying to take anything away from what he was going through, what he was enduring. Um, but I don't know. It felt really funny to me when I finally admit, yeah, I'm thinking about fucking killing myself. And the first thing she brings up is her nephew. I'm like, what does he have to do with any of this?
Yeah.
Well, well, he's so young and he's being faced with dying, and you're just thinking about throwing it away. And somehow in her mind, it made a link that made sense to her, but to me, I felt like that was almost like the last straw
Yeah.
for me. It's just like, nobody else outside of this household should have any effect on your thoughts at this point. To me, but that was one of the issues. I mean, the point I'm trying to make, I guess. Well, I just let me finish this up. Because I did that was and then the side chick thing happened, then the comeback, starting therapy, but now there was also uh, between her and the kids kind of lashing out, letting me know their anger, their hurt, trying to hurt me back in a way. Between that, between me wanting to punish myself for doing it, um, those things kind of intensified. And so after one particular night, so basically I had to revert back to the little side story about, when I mentioned to her before. Basically, I kind of had this plan. I figured out, I knew where I was going to do it at. I had my 45 XD, um, but I kind of knew this open field just a few miles from the house, because I'm like, I don't want my kids stumbling upon it. It's not fair to her to fucking see that shit. So I knew this area where, I might go down as a missing person for a few days, but eventually I'd probably be found within, I'd say, a few days to a week anyway, but it wouldn't be by my immediate family. So I had the spot picked out. Obviously it's like, well, let's just go grab the old 45. And so after this one particular night, I did. I grabbed it, tucked it in my waistband, and was getting ready to walk out the door. And one of my boys, he he stopped me and was just like, "Hey, I know it's kind of rough, but I can tell you're making a difference. I can tell you're trying." And you know, um, so I told him thank you and was hugging him. And but my ex-wife, she could tell by the way I was hugging him, like I was saying goodbye, because in a
Yeah.
way that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And and so I walk out the door into our garage, and the garage door itself was open, and I was just like, I need to go take a walk. I need to collect my thoughts. And she's like, "No, you're not going anywhere." And I'm like, she kind of gets in front of me, and I'm like, "No, let me by. I need to go. Like, I'm taking a walk. I need to clear my head. I just need to take a walk." And I guess she could just read it on me too. Just the look on my face, my eyes. I guess she could read it, but she ended up jumping on a chair. Like those little emergency cords, to, like disconnect the garage door.
Mm.
Like she jumped up and yanked that cord and like slammed the door down. She's like, "No, no, stay," And I I don't know. I just kind of stopped and just stood there, kind of stared at the floor, and you know, she reached around, she found it tucked into my waistband. Um,
Damn.
yeah. Uh, so that was really my rock bottom moment after the years of not feeling good enough. You know, not feeling good enough for my family, not feeling good enough to be in the military. Um, letting it all just kind of pile up till you know, uh, making the mistakes that I made, stepping out, causing that, like doing that kind of damage to my, like hurting my family. All of it. It just kind of finally caught up to me, and it was finally like at that point it was almost enough. So I don't know. I think honestly, if my one kid hadn't been there at that one moment, like if he had been in his room or had just let me walk on by, like it might have had a different outcome. I don't know.
Fucking
Uh,
right.
but
Fucking right, man.
but I guess things happen the way they're supposed to. Um,
Yeah.
so that was my, like I said, that was the dark moment. That was the bottom of the barrel. That was rock bottom for me. So, but continue going to the therapy and uh, doing the things that therapist is talking with me about and stuff like that, trying to improve. But at a certain point, it kind of gets to, I start to kind of realize a little bit that um, that there's some things that my now ex-wife could work on, could improve in as well. After speaking with this therapist for a while, and she had met my wife, she had a discussion with her kind of early on in this whole process. Um, but there was some unhealthy behaviors that some of them were habits that maybe if I knew knowing what I know now, like when we were younger, maybe let's not let earlier on in our marriage, let's not let this habit, let's not let this behavior become a habit because later on it's going to cause issues. Um, and she had her own issues and trauma she needed to process and deal with, but for her it was easier to just lock it away and act like it wasn't there, even though eventually it kind of came down to, yeah, you need to confront this because the way you're burying it and carrying this burden yourself, it is affecting all of us, myself, our children, our household is affecting us as well. Um, and but she's was not or is not ready to confront that because the way the therapist explained it to me, like because as far as talking about the side chick scenario I had, she explained to me that in these types of situations, most of them, you got those few people that are just like they're out fucking just because they like fucking, and you're just not going to stop them. But she said in most normal situations, there's a little bit of blame that goes both ways. She's like, it could be 50-50. You both did some things that kind of led to this point to create that opening. Like I said, I'm still not trying to pass blame because there's been plenty of other times in the past where that opening presented itself where I could have done something, but I didn't want to, didn't feel the need to. But those openings do present themselves. Those openings can be created. And yes, it's still whether or not up to you to take that opening or not. But so, like I say, I'm still not trying to pass any blame or anything for my choices, my actions. But, um, you know, there are things that can create those openings and maybe make it easier for one person to take that opening when they feel like there's no hope left. So she said, it could be 50-50. It might be a 90-10, but there's always like something, a little thing that at least that the other person trying to work on, and kept trying to have that discussion with my wife, and it did not go well. To her, her defense mechanism for her was it was all 100% me. I have PTSD. I'm fucked in the head. It's all me.
Yeah, I had the same shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's my real message and purpose of sharing this story is, especially when it comes with spouses, even family members, whether it's brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, parents, um, pretty much whoever it is in your life, if they're really always constantly after you or you're the problem, you're the only problem, do anything right. At a certain point, you do need to step back. Because there may be some things that maybe you do need to change. I'm sure we all have.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
things I'd bet money. Yeah, there's some things you have to change, but you need to look deeper than that because you have to look at that behavior. If it's a one-way street, you need to fix this. You need to fix yourself. You're fucked up. Fix this, fix that, undo that, do this. But you're like, well, hey, maybe if you can just do this and that and back off a little bit, and that's like the end of the world. Like, hell no. I'm not changing. I don't need to change. You're the one who causes all this. If it's 100% always your blame, like I said, doesn't matter. I think a lot of time. I think for most of us, it's the spouses, but it could be parents, siblings, whatever. But if that's the narrative, that could be the source of what's pushing you towards that edge.
Exactly.
Because for me, that's what it was. And you don't want to believe that. You don't want to accept that because these are people you love.
Right.
And it's not that they don't love you too, or anything like that. It's just that they have some unhealthy habits or behaviors of their own, and if they're not willing to accept or change that themselves, you can't do nothing about it. And so sometimes it is best in the end to uh, sometimes have to distance yourself from people. And I think that's perfectly all right. And I think a lot of times it will do a lot to help improve your mental and emotional state. Um, and so eventually, that's more or less. Eventually, that's kind of where things went with me and my ex-wife, and how things happens. But and that's how we ended up where now her and my boys, they live up in Colorado. I'm down in San Antonio because primarily for work. Um, I told my boys, like, I will never, like, if you didn't move back there, I would never set foot in Colorado again.
Mm.
I have because that's where they are, but that's the only reason I
Mm.
have. Um, and so, we've talked and I've told them, like, sure, I'd like to do something to find a way where I can move closer, you know, up there in the Texas Panhandle. It's, a 6-hour drive from Amarillo to Denver, or, 1 hour and a half, 2-hour
Mm.
flight instead of a 14-hour drive where I'm at
Mm.
now. So, I like to be where I'm a lot closer. Of course, they're one's in college, one's taking a break from college. He had an accident back at the beginning of 2024. So he's just now recovering. Well, he's more or less fully recovered now, but it took almost a full year for him to get back to almost normal. Um, Hit by a car, a work thing. It's a whole other thing. Maybe some other time we'll cover, but he's doing fine now. But he's talking about traveling or moving somewhere else further south because, now basically he's about to turn 20 and he's got his knees are as bad as mine from the military. Yeah, because I do have knee issues, sinus issues. Those are the things that the VA is paying me for right now is knees, sinus issues. Like it's like I feel like I constantly have like a slight cold. 'Cause my sinuses are like constantly inflamed. I think it's just from the dust
Yeah, that's
and
sand.
burn
Hell
pits and
yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, because they came out with that new burn pit thing. Like the VA mailed out that little card, like here's all these new things that we're going to cover. So if you've ever been diagnosed with these, and one of them was like the sinus. It's like sinus rhinitis or something like that.
Sinusitis, yeah.
But yeah,
I
yeah,
got that shit.
that's one of the
Same
things.
thing from the war. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's on. It was on that list because it was part of that new act that just passed. What, last year before?
Right.
But yeah, they started paying me for that back in 2013. So or 2014. So I guess I was one of the early cases that I guess I was one of the earlier guys. It was like, hey, we're getting enough of these people that I guess we need to cover this, and actually
Mm.
say it's service connected. Um,
Mm.
so, uh, but anyway, uh, but yeah, so there's still hard days. Like I say, I think overall my mental health's a lot better um, after kind of cutting that cord. Um, Still have days with regret. Um, that shit still creeps up on you. So you know, it's not going to all be fucking unicorn farts and fucking rainbow dicks. There's still going to be hard days afterwards. Um, and I'm lucky too. My boys, they're 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 old enough now. Now they're young men themselves, getting out into the world. They're like, we understand why you stayed in San Antonio, Dad. We understand you got a really good job down there. So even though it's far away from us, we understand that you're still, even though you're not with us all the time, we know you're still taking care of us from down there. Like,
Good. Good.
they recognize that. Even this last week, at the end of the night, after a few drinks, we're talking and stuff, and I told them, I was like, yeah, I do still have some regrets. I feel like I failed you guys, um, and they're like, we don't think you're a failure, Dad. So,
Okay. All right.
uh,
That's love, bro.
it is,
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
It makes me like feel stuff, I don't like those, but so
Hey,
it's
that's
really
where we
good.
all are as war vets. We can't. Some
Yeah,
things
yeah,
seep through the cracks, though, man. Things close to the heart seep through the
yeah,
cracks of that, warrior stuff.
yeah. So I mean, I feel like I'm very fortunate in that sense that my boys see that. I like to think a lot of it has to do with how I was able to teach them and stuff like that. And it's good now that we do get the opportunities, even if it's 2 to 4 times a year. we're getting the opportunities to actually kind of really go out and have that guy time, that male bonding. Um, even in their formative years, like when they were growing up as kids, I didn't get a whole lot of that with each of them individually, and it was tough because A, there's four of them. B, even like doing like a camping trip with just guys. Um, my ex-wife, she wasn't comfortable with that. She had to be around all the time to supervise to make sure that nobody's going to get hurt or something because I don't watch them. Whatever her reasoning was, we never had time to really be guys and be ourselves. You know what I mean? Because as a husband,
But she was
father,
there.
yeah, and even as teenage boys, adolescent boys, you're still going to behave different in front of mom, right?
Yep.
There's certain things you're not going to say or do in front of mom that you might say or do just in front of dad. So, uh, yeah, so we were kind of hindered a little bit, I think, in that sense about not getting to spend like too much just guy time. I mean, I tried to do the best I could. I still have the student driver sticker that all four of my boys. That was actually some of the best bonding time I got with my boys as they were teenagers was teaching them all to drive.
All right.
And so I still got that student driver sticker. I can't really. It'd be maybe I'll grab it here in a minute or something, but it's just hanging up right over there. But yeah, I bought a set of them, a 3-pack. It says student driver, and I put that on the cars, and I taught all four of my boys to drive, and that was when I got to have a lot of my good time with them. Was That's when we were a lot of that one-on-one time. Just driving around. Okay, let's go get some lunch. Where do you want to go? Let's go do the. Um, and yeah, I got all four of my boys through. I got them trained up with that decal. So just a little memento I like to keep around. Um, but yeah, that's what brings us up to the current, I guess. In the divorce, she got the house, I got the RV. So I posted up in a little RV park. I'm 10 minutes from work, but I honestly would prefer this uh, over apartment living again. I think because even though I'm still like I got neighbors on each side of me and shit like that, still everything here is mine.
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
that's my
Yep.
personal space, and I can pick it up. If I did pick up and move from here to another place, another spot, I still have my shit here. I can decorate it, design it, do whatever I want with it. It's still mine, and I like
Hey,
it.
hold on, hold on.
Yep.
Check it out. I want us to have a real quick Army terminology versus Marine terminology, a little joke real quick here,
All
all
right,
right?
I like this.
Now
Okay.
that camouflage blanket behind you, in the Marines, we call that a poncho liner. What do you call that in the Army?
That is the whoopee. The tag does say poncho liner. And you will notice, yes, that's the old school BDU. That was my original issue. Fucking, uh, yes. Uh,
I got you. I got you.
uh,
I got
yeah, I have that
you.
hanging there. It helps block out, helps keep the AC in because this is it's like a motor home, so it looks like it's got that cab behind. That's like the cab of a van.
Got you.
So,
Got I
so
just like to keep that little debate going, the little joke of
oh yeah, yeah,
Whoopi versus Poncho Liner, and the fact that the Army says one and the Marine says that baffles me. I never even knew there was
yeah.
just to
Well, what's funny is poncho liner, but the ponchos have a hole for your head to go through. Where there's no fucking hole in these things. Like so the good military logic, right? Like, oh, if it's supposed to be the liner for the poncho, then why does it fit like the poncho? It's a blanket, bro. Like I guess that's our perspective. Why it's the whoopee.
Right. I got you. I got you. That makes sense now. All right. I like that. I like that. All right. Now, as we finish up, tell everyone where they can find you online and find out about your brand and your message.
All right. So like we mentioned earlier, I did get back involved with DV Radio, so I have been hosting, and it's where I got to meet the great Sergeant WarDawg here. But at the moment, you can find me on Facebook, DV Bender. Um, but I am growing the brand. I'm also on Steam and BattleNet. Um, gonna get into a little bit of gaming. Just I feel like it's a good way to pass the time, talk shit with the guys too. Um, and on there, I am Barracks Talk Bender is my call signs on those. But then again,
I'm sorry.
Facebook.
Let me back up because I'm about to put it on the screen. The first
Okay,
one for Facebook was DV Bender, right?
correct.
All right.
Just, just search it. The right now the profile picture is the DV Radio logo. Um,
All right. And what were the others you just said?
for Steam and BattleNet, Barracks Talk Bender. Just all one word.
All right.
Now I will be adding more here in the near future. I plan on going ahead and just branching out to all the major socials. We'll have a little YouTube channel that really has no real topic other than just I don't know humor,
It's
fucking
Steam and
around.
what? Steam and
Uh,
what?
Battle.net.
All right.
So I'm just dipping my toe in the water into gaming, but if y'all are around, you see me on there, you want to add me, that's cool too. If you want to follow me, start with the Facebook page. As I add more socials here, I will make sure I link them into the Facebook page. That's the best place to start. And but I'll link them on there. So any other platforms that are easier, you're more familiar with or more comfortable with, eventually I'll be there too. But basically, I just want to continue kind of spreading that fuckery, the camaraderie. Um, I don't know, concerts, travel, hashtag van life. That's kind of some of my hobbies and interests. So those would be some things I might cover on there, but definitely still have some military theme stuff, some mental health stuff, especially men's mental health. And but maintain that laughter along the way.
Right on, bro. Right on. Is everything correct on the screen as far as finding you on social media or other platforms and Steam and BattleNet?
Yep, that looks correct.
All right. All right. That's what's
And then also, yeah, again, you can follow us more and check me out a little bit more too by going and checking out DV Radio too, dvradio.net. Look at some of the previous episodes, or they got some of them there on the website, but also all the major streaming services you can find us as well. I'm assuming you don't mind me plugging DV Radio on here, Sergeant WarDawg.
Of course not. You heard me say it at the beginning. And
Oh, you're part of the team. So.
oh yeah, and I'm dropping DV Radio now. All right. But I really appreciate all of your time. I appreciate you breaking everything down. I don't know if you've ever gone this far yourself as far as explaining everything to another war vet, so that we're we're on the same page, but we all have different journeys within it. You know what I mean? But
Right, yeah.
I really appreciate
Uh,
you coming and telling your story of surviving Iraq, Afghanistan, divorce, and still standing up, man. Still holding on. Still, you haven't
yeah.
checked out, bro. And I salute that. I appreciate you hanging on. I appreciate your strength, man. You have any final words for us here?
Uh, well, I also want to say thank you, WarDawg, for bringing me onto your show. Very honored. I love what you do, and I love your message, and I love the success that you're having getting your message out there. Because, like you said, um, I think a lot of us go through a lot of the same things. It's just how the situation's maybe a little bit different, but a lot of us are walking the same path. I guess my final thoughts, closing thoughts, is one thing I would just like to say is small changes make big differences. So take that for what you will. Identify something. You don't feel like you're in a good place. Nobody climbs Everest in one jump. It's always small steps. So just find that one small thing that you can change, and you'll be surprised at what that can lead to.
Right on. Right on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 129 of the WarDawg Trail. Remember, both Bender and I are hosts live every Saturday night with the Dysfunctional Veterans and their Barracks Talk podcast. We are live from 8 p.m. Eastern, usually until 9 or maybe 10 if things are going well. So be sure to tap in. You'll catch both of us, Bender as well as myself, on DV Radio, which can be found at dvradio.net, especially on Saturday nights. Join the chat room, join the show. You have hosts from each branch. So, hey, if you're a veteran, this is where to tap into. All right. As I said, this has been episode 129. I want to thank Bender for coming on the show. And, bro, you have a good one. Thank you and salute.
Salute, brother. Appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you. Talk to you soon.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, episode 129, bringing you another heavy hitter in the game. Salute.
Hey man, I was all night, you know what I'm saying? I was Percocet, you know what I'm saying? And I was drinking, catching plays. Sure. Hey, it's 10 times 10, 100 man, you know what I'm saying? I just went crazy, just got all the cash out. I been catching play, trap phone jugging. Young nigga take you off flexing that cook. Can't put you on game, I ain't nothing like a rookie. Mama scared I feel in love with that jugging. I shoot with the best, I can go where you couldn't. I'm smooth finesse and I'm good with the hoodie. I been catching play, trap phone jugging. Mama scared I feel in love with that jugging. Jugging. I just ran off on your cousin. Looking for me, bitch, I'm back in the track. Differences, I'm in the Gucci scully. 100 round trumpet with amateur, now you rock VVS, it can get ugly. 4-5 with the dick, bitch, I can't even tuck it in, but through the whole they duck it. I'm poppin' shit like a Warner. 7-11, I'm in it all night, bitch, I'm slanging them dice out the corner. My grandma was trippin', I had to drop out the trap house, bitch, I been had diplomas. Gucci Cologne, bitch, I put that